to show you today from start to finish how our studio edits photos for real estate. So I've put my card in the Transcend card reader and I'm going to import those from the card. So I'm going to come down to the Import tab and click Import. It's going to take a few minutes to pop up. And now what's happening here, it's bringing up all the photos that I have on the card reader. I don't want to import all those in, just the photos that I've taken at the real estate photography session this morning. I'm going to come down here, I'm going to click Uncheck All. And I'm going to scroll down. I know these photos are at the very bottom. So I can kind of see where they start. They kind of start right here. So I'm going to click on the first photo. I'm going to hold the Shift key and I'm going to click on the last photo. And then I'm going to come up to one of the boxes. You just have to click one of the boxes to check mark those. It's going to select the ones that you want to import. Make sure your filing system, over on the filing system under Lightroom Pictures, make sure that that's going to the correct spot wherever you're going to file your raw copies. And you're going to click Import. And while that's importing, I'm going to talk a little bit about our collection set. So I'm going to come to the left-hand side. I'm going to come down under Collections. I already have a collection set made for real estate photography, and we have another video on collection sets that you could go to if you need some help with that. But see my collection set right here for real estate? So I want to make a collection for the house that I just shot. I usually name the photos the address of the location. The reason I do that is because if the realtor is going back and looking for some pictures and I have the address, the file is actually the name of the address, that just helps them a lot. So this particular one, I'm going to just right click and click Create Collection. And I'm just going to type the address in. And let's go ahead and do the zip, state and zip as well. And we want to make sure I'm inside the collection set, so just make sure this just check mark and your collection set is chosen, and you're going to click Create. And then I'm going to come back to the photos I've just imported. I'm going to select them all, so I'm going to click on my first photo, hit the Shift key, click on the last photo, and then I'm going to come back to my collection set that I just created, and I'm going to drag those into the collection set. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do, come to the Lightroom options and hit Edit and select None. And then I'm going to click on my first photo, and I'm going to come to the Develop module. What we're going to do next is select our photos that we want to present to the real estate agent. So what we're going to do here is, this photo is a little overexposed. I know I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to click X. That means I'm rejecting it. I'm not going to give that to the real estate agent. Just going to go to the next one. I'm going to click X as well. Typically whenever you're doing a real estate photo, they just kind of want, I'll show you the next one. See how this is just a very just type of normal photo. We have some sun coming in here, which is very appealing. But when you're doing real estate, you're going to want a little bit more of a flat photo like this. I'm going to hit P, and that's going to flag this photo as pick, which means this is what I'm going to edit to give to the real estate agent. So what you're going to do next, you're just going to come through, you're going to do a quick X or a quick P. And personally, whenever I'm doing real estate photos, I would rather have too many than not enough. I'm not going to use this one because there was just a lot of chords. This one has a little bit of a better view. They expect some things scattered in the office, but that's just a lot of chords, so I'm not going to use that one. This one's going to be a tough one because that mirror was very hard to work around. But I have some, see the towel on the left-hand side? I'm not going to use any of these because I took some right before I left and removed the towel. Some of these I'm going to pick, there was some issues with the mirror. I'm going to have them in there and just see what I can do with them. Okay, so you see how I did that real quickly? Just a quick X or a quick P. Do I want to give it to the real estate agent, or do I want to mark it out and select another one? Alright guys, so we have chosen our photos that we want to select for editing for the customer. So what we're going to do now is come down to the Filters tab and click Flag, because that's going to bring up all the photos that we've selected to deliver to the real estate agent. And I see one here I selected by mistake. I'm just going to X right out of that. Alright, so what we want to do next is just start doing a color correction, make sure things are straightened up and all of that. So I'm going to go over that with you. So first thing I've did is come under the Develop module and come to the Basic panel. If you're new, you can click Auto. If you've been doing this for a little while, you might be able to eye it up. So I'm going to click Reset. I'm going to eye it up just because I have my own way I like to tweak photos. So I'm going to bring up my exposure a little bit, and then I'm going to bring up my contrast. I'm going to bring my highlights down, and let me show you why I'm doing that. If we look at the panel, this is our histogram panel. So whenever we have, let me put highlights back and show you. We see how that triangle is lit up there? That means we have some clippings, and we don't want clippings because we want our best color exposure. Your histogram's good whenever you're thinking about a print. If we have a clipping there, that means that photo's going to be way too bright in that spot. And I can just kind of hover over and tell what it is. So I'm going to bring my highlights down and see how that turns that triangle off. That means we're in our safe zone. I have my blacks here. I'm not quite clipped, but I'm just going to push them over a little bit. For real estate photos, I like to bring my clarity up just to make it look really nice and neat. And then I'm going to come down to our Detail tab. I'm going to do just a little noise reduction. Next, I'm going to come to Transform, and I'm going to check mark this Constraint Crop and click Auto. So we've got it nice and straight. But next I want to zoom it in for the real estate agent. So I'm going to come up to the Crop and Straighten tool, and I'm just going to kind of bring it in real close, just like that. If we see that it looks like an AC, we want to get that out of the picture. We don't want that in there. And this is just a one townhouse. With townhouses, you're going to have something else beside it. It's just how they're built. There's nothing you can do about it. But we want it to try to be a majority of the photo of the home we're trying to sell. So we can see we've cropped that in a little bit. I've cropped it in. My highlights are still a little bit over clipped. So I'm going to put a little vignette in that because I'm trying to bring some color back to the sky. So if we come down to the Effects panel, just do a little vignette and see how that brings some color back in, and it makes our clippings the way they need to be. Next thing, I know the sky was a little blue, so I'm going to come to our brush panel. Under the effect, I'm going to click on Vibrance. Saturation. I'm going to take my brush, I'm increasing my size here a little bit. I'm going to see if I can get some of that blue back in there that I knew we had that morning. Okay, so I've painted on some saturation, and now you can also play with your temperature here to see how we brought that blue back in. There we go. So if you just play with your temperature, you can bring some blue back into the sky. All right, and that is our first photo. And we're just going to kind of follow that same process from here. So I use the Constraint Crop tool a lot on real estate pictures. Most of the time it works. You just want it to look nice and even. When I'm doing real estate pictures, I like them to look bright. bright, a lot of natural light in the home, so I kind of aim for that. Usually bring my contrast and clarity up a good bit. See how that just makes it a little bit more defined? And then you're really going to watch your white balance. You want to make sure all your white balance matches. Even though some of the lighting might not match and you might have to adjust that per photo, you want to make sure it all matches throughout the home. I typically don't do a vignette on the inside just because we want that bright, airy feeling. All right, this is one example I was talking about with the white balance. This particular bathroom had a really yellow light, so we're going to have to play with that. First I'm going to do my Constraint Crop just to straighten it. See how perfect that made it? I'm going to do a little noise reduction. I'm kind of going backward here. You don't really have to go in a particular order. Sometimes when they're really crooked like that, that bugs me, so that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to do my white balance first here. And then I'm going to just turn up my contrast and clarity. There we have our first restroom done. Actually, I'm going to bring those highlights down a little bit. There we go. I'm going to try to adjust that just a little more. All right. All right, so next thing we have our living area. Like I said, I'm going to hit my Constraint Crop first. Now, there's an example where the Constraint Crop did not do the best job. See how that door looks really wide now? So I'm just going to hit Edit and Undo, and I'm going to straighten it myself. It's one of those cases it just didn't work out correctly. Okay, so this one's a little overexposed, which is okay. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. Highlights is what's the major part here. Then I'm just going to bump up my contrast and clarity. See how that clarity just really brings that photo back in. And I can see in my histogram what was a little bright. So I'm going to work on that. Just a little noise reduction under your detail tab, and that photo is complete. I have two photos that are similar. I can sync those color adjustments to the pictures. So I'm going back and looking at this picture. I'm seeing how the edges look a little blue. Just comparing it to the other ones, I'm going to set my white balance back to has shot. See how the wall colors, that's how the wall colors really looked. So I'm going to come back to my brush tool. And I'm going to play with my white balance here a little bit. So I'm just going to put it on temperature. I'm going to paint it on. So I'm just going to bring my brush over real lightly here. And I'm going to turn my temperature down. Maybe exposure. Not liking that, so I'm going to reset. Just maybe need to hit the walls here. And sometimes keep in mind with your pictures, sometimes there's